Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters, and welcome to this week's live chat where I talk about something quilting related and answer your questions live. And today's live chat, we're going to do a little bit of behind the scenes. I'm going to show you a little bit about our big Quiltwalk event, kind of talk a little bit about designing the pattern for it, and then a new fabric collection, so lots of fun stuff. Sorry I wasn't here last week. Normally, pretty regularly, every Thursday at 3 p.m. I'm Central. I'm here on my YouTube channel chatting, but last week I had to take my daughter to her orthodontist appointment. You know, don't you love how like real life keeps getting in the way of quilting time? But I don't like brag on my kids too much, but I'm super excited. My youngest got her driver's license the other day, like 2 days ago. Craziness. And then my son's buying a house. So lots of fun stuff happening in the Walters household. But I'm definitely glad to be here talking about quilting and all that good stuff. Now, if you're watching live, I have a giveaway for you. So all you have to do to enter the giveaway is just leave a comment telling Jessica how much you love her. And I'm giving away this fabric bundle, my new fabric collection. We're going to see more about this. And then a Quiltwalk lanyard. So leave your comments on there and she'll pick a winner at the end. And if you're watching live, if you have any questions, type them in the comments because she'll give those to me at the end and I'll answer them. Now, normally I talk about something machine quilting related, but we're going to go a little bit different and I'm going to show you some behind the scenes stuff what I've got going on. So kind of excited to share it with you. Oh, and be sure to stick around until the end, because I have a sneak peek for the next Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along, so super excited about that. All right, first of all, behind the scenes with Quiltwalk. Now, Quiltwalk is our big store event, our quilt shop. It is the kind of like, I call it the Super Bowl of our year. And so I wanted to show you a little bit what's coming on with that. Now, I know that not everybody lives in the Kansas City area. We're actually in Liberty, Missouri, which is about 20 minutes from Kansas City, and not everybody lives here, so I thought I would show you kind of what's going on, and I do have a little way for us all to participate. Anyway, so our quilt shop is located in downtown Liberty, Missouri, and this is our 7th annual Quiltwalk, and about 7 years ago, I thought, you know, with some other shop owners, I would love to be able to bring quilters in here and show them all that this town has to offer and kind of make a day of it. So we hang quilts on anything that won't move and we have a lot of fun. So that's coming up on June 7th. Now, again, I know not everybody can be here, but if you're going to be in the area, I hope you'll swing by, or if you know somebody that will be in the area, I hope you'll tell them about it. If you haven't been to our quilt shop, it is the best. So here is kind of the outside of that. If you ever go into the Quilting is My Therapy quilt shop and you see how beautiful and clean it is and how lovely everything looks, just know I have nothing to do with that. Those are my amazing employees that make it look great. But we thought it would be fun to do this quilt walk where people can go to the participating businesses, grab the pieces of a quilt pattern and just, I don't know, have a day of it. And so we decided to do that. There's an inside shot of the quilt shop. This is a little bit of an older shot, or older picture. It's always changing, which is kind of fun to always pop in there and be like, ooh, it looks nice and different. Anyway, on June 7th, during the quilt walk, what we'll do is we'll be handing out instructions or a map that will tell you which shops to go to. It's all nice and close, and you kind of wander or meander through the downtown area and look at the quilts, like I said, hanging on everything, and collect the pieces of the pattern. Plus, we have quilt exhibits, and I have some demos coming up, so there's other stuff to do. What I love about the downtown Liberty area is there's a lot to do. There's a massage place, there's home decor, there's a jewelry store, there's all sorts of things. I can really get in trouble if I spend too much time not in my shop. Anyway, on June 7th, if you happen to come, you'll see quilters getting ready to partake in the quilt walk. And these are just shots from last year's quilt walk. And it was just kind of fun to, you know, relive that. And I cannot believe that it's already been a year. I mean, it's just crazy how fast time is flying. So here's kind of the hustle and bustle outside of the quilt shop and handing out those instructions and just some pictures throughout. Now, if you are a regular listener to the live chat, you always hear about Jessica, and I'm sure you're thinking I'm making her up because nobody really sees her, but that's her in the upper left corner with me, arm around her, so that gives you a little visual of her. I don't have a picture of Anna yet, our social media person. I'll have to get a picture of her on there. But again, this is just some pictures from last year. It's just like so much fun. And you know, it was a little warm. It's always a little bit warm in June, but I don't even remember it now, so it's totally fine. So anyway, when you come to the shop or when attendees come, we give them a map, and that kind of shows them where everything is. The exhibits, the demos, the different block stops where you pick up the pieces of your pattern. And then we also have, for the first 100 people that come, a free swag bag. Now this is something we've done regularly because we know quilters love free stuff. But this year, I feel like our swag bag is over the top. I've got stickers, I've got a quilt label, I've got a little notepad, I've got some other goodies that aren't even in that picture. So fun little swag bag for attendees. Don't worry, I have a way for the online people to get one too. I'll tell you about that in just a second. So Quiltwalk starts, like I said, on that June 7th from 10 to 3. You don't have to be there the whole time. You can just kind of come and choose when you like to come. And usually if you're like, I'm not too worried about the swag bag, you want a little bit of an easier, less crowded experience, come a little bit later in the afternoon. But we also have some exhibits and some demos, and then of course giveaways. So it's just a fun day. Here's the events that we have going on, the demos that we have, and then a meet and greet. It's going to be close to the shop. But again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I wish, too bad you can't make it or anything like that. The idea here is just kind of have fun and make a fun day of it. But the biggest part of Quiltwalk, for me specifically, isn't necessarily arranging all the participants and getting the grant. That's what Jessica does. My biggest part is designing the Quiltwalk quilt. So this is the quilt pattern that we'll be handing out, not the quilt. We're not handing the quilt out, just the pieces of the pattern. So this is called Windswept. So every year I design a pattern just for the Quiltwalk. And it's kind of a challenge for me because it has to have, multiple blocks, kind of like a sampler. It has to be able to come together nicely, and I want it to be interesting and cool so that people are like, oh, I really want to go to Quiltwalk. And so this is the pieces of the pattern that we'll be gathering. Now, in this live chat, I have some kind of like, how did I design the fabric, and a little bit behind the scenes with making the pattern. It is quite the labor of love, but I'm always so glad when it's done. This thing went to print today, so it's now off of my plate, and I'm super excited about that. Anyway, so the Windswept quilt, you can kind of see that sampler look. Totally different colors than anything I have ever done. Isn't it funny how, I don't know, as a quilter, I tend to get kind of stuck in a color rut. I wouldn't say stuck, but I just kind of like hang out in that one area. And so I really kind of challenge myself to do something different. And we'll talk more about that here in a second. Now, before this year, the only way you could get the kit or the pattern was to come to the Quiltwalk. And then Jessica was like, we need to make it available for people online as well. And so what we did is we took the kit and we made it available for pre-order. So if you're like, I can't come to Quiltwalk, but I really want to make that quilt, you can pre-order the kit now. And there's links in the description box to all of that. The kit's going to come with all the fabric and all the patterns that you need to make the quilt top plus binding. But as an added bonus, if you pre-order it, you get the swag bag as well. So the swag bag with the stickers and all that kind of stuff. So you could take advantage of that. And just so you can see, it comes in a cute box. How adorable is that? So you can pre-order that by clicking the link, and then those will ship mid-June. So after Quiltwalk, we're still kind of assembling all the goodies for that. So if you're like getting kind of mad because you're like, I can't go, well, now that's still a way that you can participate. And what's kind of funny is I get on the type chat before we go live, and somebody's like, we should do an online Quiltwalk. So, I mean, I don't need another project, but that sounds like fun. So maybe in the future we'll see that. Now, when we do the Quiltwalk, this big event, like everybody, it's like all hands on deck here at the quilt shop. I started last year putting classes, long arm classes around it. So if you're like, I want to go to Liberty, Missouri, but I don't want to go all that way for just one thing, I do have some hands-on long arm classes before and after Quiltwalk. So it's kind of it's like a whole weekend of fun. And I have such a blast. And then once the last class is over, I lay on the floor and I don't get up for a couple days. I'm just kidding. But as a part of the whole festivities, I'm gonna be doing some long arm classes. Now this is gonna be at our long arm showroom at our event center, just a couple blocks from the quilt shop, and it's a hands-on long arm class. And I have so much fun teaching these because it's just kind of my first language, so to speak. I like to say I can quilt on a sewing machine and a long arm, but I learned on a long arm first, and I'm much more comfortable with that. But anyway, so we're going to have some hands-on long arm classes. June 5th, I'm going to be doing Mastering Swirls, which we just had a whole video series about that, so that's going to be fun. And then June 6th is Quilting with Rulers. Love Quilting with Rulers classes because they're always different depending on the designs that we come up with. Then there's Quiltwalk on June 7th, a big day there. Then on June 8th, we're trying something different. So we're going to do a shop and talk thing. I was trying to think of some kind of event we could do on Sunday. for the people that are out of town, can kind of have multiple things to do. And we kind of came up with this idea of a shopping / trunk show kind of setup. And so for the shop and talk, attendees will be able to go to the quilt shop and do some, exclusive shopping. Shop will only be open for them. And then they'll get to come to the event center, and I'm going to do a how do I quilt it trunk show. And then attendees can bring their quilt tops and get suggestions on how to quilt it. Plus, we'll have tons of giveaways, and it's just going to be a fun time. So I'm excited. We've not ever done this format before, but I'm always a fan of trying new things because, what's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't work out, we don't do it next time. And then on Monday and Tuesday, I have 2 more long arm classes to kind of round out the whole fun week, thread painting class and then the Fabulous Feathers class. So if you've been wanting to take a long arm class, hands-on long arm class, this is the time to do it. You can take one or you can take all of them. Again, I know not everybody lives in the area, and I'm really sorry for that, but it's definitely a lot of fun. Now let's kind of like leave Quiltwalk behind and let's look at the quilt. So this quilt features my new fabric collection, which we're going to talk about, and I think it's so interesting for me when I can kind of see the behind the scenes of other people's stuff. Like, how did this thing come about? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I look at somebody and I think, oh, they must, just have it all together, or it just came out like that. That's definitely not the case with me. So the Windswept quilt pattern features a brand new fabric collection. And so we can see, here's the quilt again, totally different colors for me, guys. There's purple in there. There's like this pink and gold, but I kind of love it. So the fabric I'm using is from my Pumpkin Season Twilight collection. Okay, if you're like, why so many names? Well, it's because this is a spin-off of a different fabric collection. But as you can see, there's the prints in the collection, just kind of that saturated purpley gold. My idea was to go for a fall-inspired collection that didn't scream fall, if that makes any kind of sense. But what it actually started out from was from the Pumpkin Season fabric collection that I designed for our block of the month. So last fall, this was one of the colorways for our block of the month. And for that, I designed all the fabrics for that as well. And I had decided to do a fall themed. Joni had kind of talked me into it for our block of the month. The problem is I do not personally work with novelty fabrics a lot. So I really had a hard time with this, just kind of narrowing down the prints. So back when I was designing this, I was like, okay, I want it to be fall, your kind of classic, your oranges and your browns and your greens. And it was difficult. I mean, that collection took me forever. I kept sending off prints. So here's a test print with all the prints on there, different colors. I'm kind of putting them together. I'm like, I don't know. They're great, but it didn't work with the collection themselves. So I ended up finally picking the 9 fabrics that make up the Pumpkin Season fabric collection and was like, okay, great, finally, I'm done with that. But then I got to thinking, I have all these other prints that go with it. Why not recolor it and make it a fabric collection? And so there really was no reason why. I just kind of decided I'm going to just work with some of these prints that didn't make it into the original colorway. And then it's Pumpkin Season Twilight. So anyway, again, not colors that I normally use. This is the main piece of the collection. It's actually, I know it's hard to see, but it's a fairly large print. Again, unusual for me. I tend to be more of a blender kind of quilter. And I really wanted the color gradation to kind of work through that fabric. So you can see here, that's kind of the whole width of the fabric. And then when I show you the kind of a close-up picture, you can see really how big the print is. So that was kind of like the jumping off point. And that print kind of combines a lot of the elements from the other Pumpkin Season collections. So just kind of pulling out those pieces and really playing with it. So at this time, I don't even really have a plan for what I'm going to do with this fabric. I'm really just, designing, and it was so much fun to kind of let it evolve that way. So here's the first print that we saw, and then the other prints in the collection. You got the main focal, and you got your darker with your, again, the magentas and the pinks, just, again, colors I don't normally use. And then this is one of my favorite, this little pink one. And the problem is that this really doesn't do it justice, because you know how hard it is for pink and red to look right on a screen, but it really is gorgeous. Of course, I'm going to think so because it's like my kids, right? But the screens kind of make it look a little bit more punchy than it actually is. So there's the Pumpkin Seasons Twilight fabric collection. So I had these prints. I'm super happy with them. I'm like, all right, great. But it just so happened at the same time, I was also designing the Quiltwalk quilt. And that one, is kind of designing the Quiltwalk quilt is kind of a process. I mean, I guess they all are. It's a lot of like feeling like I'm really far ahead and then like I'm back and forth. Like it just feels like I'm fighting, but then eventually the quilt came out. And you would think, looking at it, you're like, it's pink and it's gold. It's a little bit different, but I love it. I love it. But that wasn't my first color option. I really struggled with which fabrics to use for the quilt. In my mind, I really want everybody to like it, right? And then we know that not all quilters like the same colors. So I was kind of like, after I designed the pattern, I was like, what color should I do it in? So here were actually two other options when I was kind of working through the pattern. So the first one on the left is like gold and green with a little bit of like teal and mint. And the other one, of course, is the blush with the navy. And I came so close to both of those. And you might be looking like, oh, that's way better. But at the end, I finally was like, okay, you know what? We're going to go with the pink and the gold. Let's do it. Let's just make it fall and fun and bright and saturated. So that was kind of the angst of designing all those. Now, if you ever want to see like, I don't know, somebody really getting into the weeds of things, go talk to somebody when they're in the middle of a creative process. I know Jessica and Anna both have to listen to me be like, it looks like crap. No, it doesn't. There's definitely a lot of that back and forth. But it's kind of like having a kid when you get to this point and you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I think I'll do it again next year. Anyway, so really by time I show you all this, it's been in the works for months and months. And so by this point, sometimes I'm so, like I've looked at it so much, I'm like, I think I still like this, right? But I'm still super happy with how it turned out. So that's kind of the process with that. Again, if you want to get the fabric, the kit, all the links to that are in the description box below. And then if you want to learn a little bit more about the Quiltwalk, you can do that as well. Again, it's a real fun event. And if you can't be there, you can at least get the kit and quilt along with us. All right, before I answer your questions and do our giveaway, I have one last sneak peek. So next week is yet another big event here at Quilting is My Therapy. We'll be announcing our next Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along. For those of you that aren't sure what I'm talking about, it's a video series. It's like a quilting class with me and it comes out about twice a year. I do one and it's completely free to participate. And then I show you the topics we're going to learn and we all quilt together and it is a lot of fun. In fact, that's kind of how these live chats started. And so next week I'll be giving you all the details about it, when it starts, the quilt panel I've designed, all the products, but I thought let's do a little sneak peek. You can kind of see here what we're going to be working with. So the next Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along is going to be negative spaces or background areas, and we're going to learn some of my favorite techniques for quilting background areas of your quilts. So super excited about that. It's kind of fun. The whole designing process is a lot of like back and forth, and so when I would get kind of stuck on Quiltwalk, I'd go to the challenge and vice versa. So super excited to share all the details about that next Thursday at 3 p.m. Central here on my live chat. And if you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, go check out my YouTube channel because all of my previous Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along videos are still available. So you can still quilt along with me on there if you'd like. So I cannot wait to show you all the fun stuff with that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, though, if you've done it before, you know it's going to be a lot of fun, right? Anyway, I know that wasn't the normal topic for our live chat. Normally mine, it's about, picking designs or machine quilting tips, but it's kind of fun to show behind the scenes every once in a while. So it looks like we might have some questions. Poor Jessica has to write them all out. Thank you. All right. I can't use my stitch regulator on my machine. How do you switch your ruler around while quilting? Do you stop and start? Okay, yes. So on my long arm, it had a stitch regulator, but I accidentally knocked it off when I was kind of squeezing behind it, so I just left it off. So I never quilt with a stitch regulator, and I keep my finger on that trigger pretty quick. And so as I'm going, I'm starting and stopping a lot. One time I was asking my husband, Jeremy, I was like, what does the long arm even sound like in the living room? Like, can you hear it down here? And he's like, oh yeah, I can hear it. It sounds like this, ring, ring, ring. I was like, oh, that's because I keep stopping and starting. So, well, I guess that was the only machine quilting question. If you're not watching live, you can still leave your questions in the comments. And I get on there from time to time and answer them, and other quilters are super helpful to help there as well, answer them as well. All right, how about our giveaway winner? Our winner is Kelly Montgomery. So you get the fabric bundle and the Quiltwalk lanyard. So just send us an email to customerservice@quiltingismytherapy.com and we will get that sent to you. And again, all the links are in the description box if you need it. And I cannot wait to see you next week. where we talk about quilting those negative spaces of our quilts. Until then, everybody, happy